Davy V, Davy V, they call him Davy V, Davy V, Davy V brings cops to their knees. Davy V, Davy V, they call him Davy V, Davy V, Davy V brings Rochester cops to their knees. How's it going, everyone? I woke up very early this morning for no reason, and I did this interview with Davy V. You've probably seen his videos if you've searched stuff related to police. This dude puts cops in their place. He actually inspired me. He didn't even realize it. I seen his videos back in the day, and he's been around for a long time. He used to do some type of weekly show where he'd interview famous rappers. Uh, anyway, here's my interview with Davy V, police activist, all around good guy. He's got a story about his dad. All right, here we go.
Hello?
Hello.
What's good, bro?
Hey, how are you, sir?
How you doing?
This is Davy V, right?
This is Davy V. Yep, Davy Vara. But
How you pronounce your last name?
Vara. Well, really pronounce it Vara. You gotta. It's a Spanish.
Davy Vara.
Yeah, Vara. You said it perfect. Not many people could do that. It's almost like you gotta make like a T sound almost with the R.
Yeah, you gotta roll your R. I speak Greek.
You gotta. There you go. There you go. You gotta roll the R. And a lot of I was born here. I'm an American, but but a lot of Americans for some reason they can't roll the R, bro.
Right. I understand. Vara.
Yep.
My original last name, and I probably shouldn't say this, but was Filax.
Okay.
So my dad.
That's a mouthful.
So my dad shortened it down to Filax, I guess. I don't even know how they pronounce it. And when I was young, I'm like, Filax, Felix. I'm just gonna call myself Felix.
So that's how you pronounce it, right?
I just say Felix, yeah. And then it's got a unique spelling for people who really know me. Will spell it right. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Well, your origins are Greek, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a good friend here in the restaurant business, and I'm a big boxing fan. So he's a boxing manager, and gentleman I've known for years,
Mm-hmm.
and he's Greek.
And you're up in Rochester?
Rochester, New York, bro. Almost pretty much on the edge of Lake Ontario.
So you don't mind me recording this call and publishing it on my channel, correct?
No, absolutely not. No,
so
it's okay.
Tell me what the weather's like up there right now.
Oh, man, let me give you the exact number. Well, right now it's rainy, cloudy, which unfortunately is, I miss Florida. I actually grew up in Florida.
Okay.
It's 39 degrees right now, 39. Right. And rainy, cloudy, cold.
The reason I ask is because I'm in my backyard in my underwear, and it's about 69.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can rub it in.
What part of Florida did you grow up in?
So I was born here in 70.
Uh-huh.
And 2 months after my birthday, my dad, fresh out of Cuba, pretty much less than 2 years. They came in 68. He was like, "The heck with this," and we went down to Miami. And so in Miami, basically Miami, to answer your question, but we moved around a little bit. And then in 1980, my dad, rest in peace, had the crazy idea, which I guess I'll never quite know why, decided to, hey, let's trade beautiful Miami, which was, if you know Florida, which I'm sure you do, obviously it was turning around in right around 80 and booming, and even the house we had bought gained great equity in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Bought a house in 77 and sold it in 80 and decided let's trade beautiful, sunny Florida sun and, ocean. For,
and go up to Rochester, New York.
Let's go back to Rochester and try this again. So, parents make decisions sometimes that
what did
that totally change the kid's life, bro.
What did Pops do for a living?
Well, in Miami, he was kind of like a jack of all trades. He had a painting business.
Okay.
That continued here, basically, kind of like a general contractor, but mostly concentrated in exterior and interior painting when he was in Miami.
Okay.
Down there, obviously, with the weather permits that you can do both year round.
So let's talk about your dad. Your dad is a Cuban immigrant. Is that correct?
Cuban immigrant, yep.
And he went from
68.
In 1968. He went from Cuba to Rochester, New York.
Well, from Cuba to Miami, like most, like most Cubans.
Sure. Now Cuba's only 90 miles away from what?
90
US?
miles away, man.
Okay.
Yep. So, tried Miami for a little bit, and like the saying goes,
stop. Let me stop you, Davey. Let me stop you, Davey.
Huh?
Let me stop you real quick. So, how old was your dad when he came from Cuba?
Let's see, he was born in 37, and
68, so about 30-ish.
31 years old.
Okay, 31. And in 1968, what was going on in Cuba? Who was in charge? Castro, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Castro.
And now, was that the same? Is Che Guevara part of that time period in Cuba?
Well, not in 68.
No, that was earlier or later?
Well, Che Guevara was obviously executed, in Bolivia.
Right.
The roots of it is that Castro basically fooled the people. If you see an Ed Sullivan clip that he's on, he fooled the people into basically believing that he was going to, take over from Batista, who we called the dictator, and change the life and better the life for the people. But if anything, he pulled the wool over everyone's eyes, and he became the dictator. So what kind of things were going on that people wanted to leave over? Well, just for example, my mom was she's sick now. She has dementia, unfortunately. But my mom was a Jehovah's Witness. They were greatly persecuted.
Okay, so no religious freedom. Okay, what else was going on there?
Freedom is something unheard of. Unless you're Catholic, you have to practice whatever belief or freedom you have.
And
in the underground.
And I'm assuming the police were insanely corrupt there.
Absolutely, the police, also known as G2, is how you say G in Spanish. So G2 is the Cuban military, basically police force.
Cuban military police force. So there's no real distinction between the local police and the military.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean,
okay, so that's one thing America has written in the books. I believe it's called Posse Comitatus, that the military cannot enforce local regular laws.
Absolutely.
So there was no separation in Cuba. So that's basically the whole island was a giant military prison.
Absolutely. And still is. I mean,
okay. So
not to get off track here, and I don't want to, kind of steer it, take you away from your questions. But one thing that I have a problem with here, and I got to be honest, and I got to put this out there real quick, is that, I've become a one-man show, and I think my isolation from other groups and other activists, for different reasons, which, I'm not going to get into all the reasons now, but one of the biggest things that I have a problem with is when activists or so-called groups or whatnot, they refer to our system here, okay, as a police state. And I get it. I've actually been guilty of using that word too, and this is why I say guilty of it. As somebody, nothing against Puerto Ricans, my niece is half Puerto Rican. I grew up with Puerto Ricans here, which is predominantly the Latino population up north here. Nothing against anyone else, and not to offend anyone, but for someone, even though I was born here, who knows what my parents went through. My parents both abandoned and left. I mean, a strong way of putting it, but they left their families behind, never to see their parents again. Never to see their families again. And again, this was 1968. This wasn't now that people travel back and forth to Cuba from Miami and everywhere,
Right.
This was a different time. And when you left Cuba, you pretty much knew that was it. You were not pretty much, going to see your family anytime soon. And so when people say that we live in a police state, I'll be honest, I have an issue with that.
So
the reason is...
Go ahead. The reason is?
Sorry. The reason is we can say we live in a police state like, or some conduct of certain officers are police state like, and I'll give you that. But to say police state, to me personally, as a Cuban American, hits home because
we're not there
up
yet.
To now, thank you, John, thank you. Up to now, we can still, knock on wood, we can still, not always, but for the most part, exercise our rights, which is what you do, what I do every day when I exercise my First Amendment protected right to record. If you want to see a true police state, and this is what rubs me the wrong way about a lot of folks, go no further than to play back the B-roll or the tapes of different media reporters reporting from Cuba during President Obama's visit, and see that, activists on the street were literally behind the American reporters. They were literally being kidnapped on the streets. I don't know if you saw that footage.
No. Please send it to me.
Oh, you got to see that. You got to see that.
You'll send it to me.
Roll up. Oh, absolutely. Where it's all over the place. Cars would roll up, and Cuba's G2 police force, some undercover in plain clothes, would jump out of the cars and literally, and this was on American television. This was on CNN. This was on mainstream media here. And you could see literally behind them the activists, like the ladies in Blanco, which is a group of women over there that have protested, for years. They were literally getting arrested. Now, people have gotten arrested here, and people do get arrested. And I always tell people, listen, just because you have the First Amendment right to record and you're protected under the First Amendment and it's been ruled on by the highest courts of the land, that doesn't mean that you're not going to deal with, excuse my language, an asshole cop that's going to, be on roids that day and want to prove his power and arrest you. You could always get arrested, so I tell people to be ready for that.
Right.
But to compare and say that in the U.S. is a police state, I'll go exactly with what you said. We are not there yet.
Okay. That's fair enough. And so, what, police state light, potential police state, almost a police state, headed on the way to a police state, but not a police state yet? Because I hear what you're saying. When I was over in Greece for a few months, on television, the police are just beating people, and I'm like, they're allowed to just beat people? They're like, yeah, they do whatever they want.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yep. I understand what you're saying. We're not full-fledged police state yet, but you got to admit we're progressing in that direction.
Oh, absolutely. Our rights are being eroded as we speak.
Okay.
You have a system which protects bullies, thugs, gang members.
Right.
And literally they have a license to kill. They have a license, not only they are permitted and allowed and defended and justified to not only detain you, detain your freedom of movement, arrest you, and in many cases execute you. The system completely covers them. So I'm with you on that. I think it's more that being that and again, Cubans, more so than Puerto Ricans, can relate to the fact of what a real police state is. And I think that's why it hits home for me. In other words, it's like, look, my man, it's not you, but I'm saying it generally speaking. It's like I want to tell these activists, and I do. I've gotten into heated discussions, and, I've fallen out of, certain circles because of disagreements where they can't understand or respect that. Look, I'll give you that things are really bad here. I'm a second-generation activist. I've been doing this for a long time. You don't got to sell me on anything. But to equate it with an actual police state like Cuba is just not right, and a lot of people, I think, go for it because they don't really know the history, but it's bad. Trust me, it's bad.
Okay, all right. So activists out there, use the word borderline or something before you say police state. We good? We good with that?
We're good on it.
All right. So let me get back to my timeline. All right. I don't know how much time you got, but you got time?
I got as much time. It's an honor. You're one of my favorite YouTubers.
I appreciate that, man.
I don't really follow police stuff. I do so much police-related stuff that when I do YouTube, it's usually Hot Wheels or thrifting, other things that I'm passionate about.
Uh-huh.
But I can tell you're the only YouTuber that I really follow that is police, that the nucleus, your work oriented around police accountability. So it's an honor, bro. I got as much time as you got. I'm honored to be talking to you.
I'm honored that you contacted me, man. I'm really nobody special. I'm just like you, So
no, but you're very important, bro. You are very important because more and more people. You are informing every day more and more people through your videos. And as I am, and I don't think I'm aware of it. I don't know if you are, but a lot of folks go about their daily lives not aware of the fact that you really motivate and inspire and educate and inform a lot of people. So what you're doing is great, and I love that you're fair. I love that you're an animal lover. I just really, really respect what you do, bro. And I
appreciate it, man.
Like I said, you're one of my favorites under.
Yeah, hey, bro, I've seen you. I've seen your stuff years ago. So people like you, it's people like you that inspired me. It's not like, And the only reason I got as big as I got is because of one video where I got pulled over and told the cop where you can go. I had no idea that was going to blow up. As a matter of fact, you and several other people who do similar stuff, you guys do it a lot better than I do. I just have wit. Is basically what it comes down to. I have a good sense of humor, and I know how to manipulate words.
Yep.
So, back to my timeline. Back to the boring stuff. So 68 pops, 31 years old, wants to leave, goes to Miami. From Miami, ends up in Rochester.
Yep.
Rochester.
Ends up 1,500 miles north.
Right. So that's where he settles in, has you. You have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, so my brother was 6 years old at the time. My brother remembers Cuba.
Okay.
Which, again, I've never been there. He was born in 62, so brother, dad, and mom came over here in 68.
All right. And dad worked as basically a contractor, subcontractor, painter, interior guy. And
always had
what did mom do?
Mom was a typical old school housewife.
Cool. And so it was you and your brother, right? No other siblings?
No, that's it.
All right. So now you're saying your dad was an activist, also a police accountability activist?
Well, not until an incident which kind of sets everything off.
All right. This is the good stuff now. Let's hear. 1983, Pops, what happened?
86. 1986.
All right.
What happened is there was I won't get too long-winded here, but there was a neighbor of ours who was German, of German descent. And in 1980, when we were pulling in with a station wagon, the old Chevy Caprice station wagon with a U-Haul.
Wood paneling? Hold on. Did it have wood paneling?
The wood paneling. Absolutely. Okay. White with the wood paneling, which we bought in Miami. I brag about this always. I'm the one that pointed it out to my dad. He said, we need a good, reliable car to go to Rochester. And I said, there it is, sitting at a Sears Roebuck on Coral Way and 87th in Miami, Florida. And we ended up coming in that car. It was a 73, so it was 7 years old, Caprice station wagon.
Nice.
White with a wood paneling. So the way that this gentleman, rest in peace, he's been gone for a while, seemed to welcome us to Rochester was by hollering all kind of racial slurs at us. And, like Spicks, like Spicks, and you're not welcome here. And I used to hang dogs in Germany, so your dogs better not make a fucking sound.
This is the neighbor, the direct neighbor?
Our next door neighbor, literally next door neighbor.
Okay.
And what ensued for the next 6 years, from 80 to 86, was a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde relationship, or this gentleman was Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He was an alcoholic, which was a very, very nasty disease, and he was drinking. He was one of the worst people I have ever met. I'm 47 years old, and I still remember just how mean, how abusive. He would beat his wife, who was in her 70s. This is a man in his 70s, by the way. In 1980, he was already in his 70s.
Okay.
So basically, when he was not drunk, he was the nicest old man next door, which would who would always help me fix my bike. Had a treasure trove of bike parts and old bicycle chains and all kind of stuff in his basement. And he was just a totally different person. But you knew that by the time he sat on his porch, especially in the summer, and started drinking the cans of beer back to back, you knew that it was a matter of time before he would start his unleashing of the worst vitriol.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad would lend him some money every now and then for beer. Just a guy that said, let me give him a couple $. He helped me with cutting down a tree or whatever. let me give him branches or whatever, trimming a tree. Let me buy him a 6-pack. Well, my dad quickly realized that a vicious cycle would start where he would beat his wife at night, this gentleman, and his wife would come over next door, call the police from our house, saying that he was trying to murder her. The police would come, they would arrest him, and in the morning, she would be the first one in court to drop the charges.
Okay.
So this went on for years and years and years.
Uh-huh.
In 1986, this gentleman, when my dad told him, "You're cut off," I pretty much don't approve of what you do. You beat your wife. She's a great woman. He decided to call the Rochester, New York Police Department, which was a block away, the station, Maple section, and say that my dad had a gun in the house and threatened him.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't true. I mean, my dad didn't threaten him. My dad just basically cut him off and told him, we're neighbors, but I really just don't want anything to do with you anymore. Don't approve of what you do and how you treat your wife. So 2 Rochester, New York police officers responded. Mark Mariano, which interestingly and eerily enough has the last name of my dad's first name, Mariano.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, okay. Even though they called my dad Mario for short. And Rambo, like Sylvester Stallone, nickname on the street, Benjamin. And I can tell you that Mark Mariano is in Florida, retired, and from the RPD, from the Rochester New York Police Department, and Benjamin is still on the force. So basically, they told my dad, and I remember this, I was 16 years old, and up until this point, I want to add that I was taught to respect the police. The police were the good guys.
Of course.
If you're in trouble, you look for that uniform. You look for that badge.
Right.
Officer Friendly had just visited my school years earlier when we came from Florida. So my class. So basically, they demanded to go into the house, and my dad. I had no clue at the time about rights and warrants. I really didn't know. I mean, I wasn't dumb, but I was 16 years old and doing what most 16-year-olds do on my BMX bike and stuff like that.
Right.
Basically, my dad said no. You cannot enter my home. You cannot come in my house without a search warrant signed by a judge or a magistrate.
Right.
And they said, well, we're coming in. And my dad said, no, you're not. And they went back and forth a few minutes. And my dad basically went on the porch. I remember he was at the bottom of the porch, went up a couple steps into the porch, and tried to go in the house and basically lock the door, behind him. And he didn't get to lock the door with the lock. They started kicking in the door. Now, I was never outside. I was inside in the bay window we had, which was next to the entrance. It would be the living room, actually. And I remember seeing this through mostly the window. It was summer. The window was open. The screen was there. And also saw some of it in the foyer of the home where the door was. So that was my view and my listening and my seeing what was going on. I was never quite outside. And all I remember as a kid, and this is a little emotional to talk about because it's reliving something that you go through in life and that has changed you. This is 31 years ago, and it is as vivid now in my memory as it was then.
Okay.
And it's a betrayal. What police, I don't want to get off track here, but what police officers don't realize is that their conduct, to this day, there's officers that I try to get along with, that I'm civil with, that I talk to, I spark a conversation with, and I say, listen, try, and the key word is try. Try to make every encounter with a young person, with a youth, a positive one. And I understand that they do have a tough job sometimes. I get that. Domestic incidents are bad. They're the riskiest, and when they respond, I get that they have their job can be dangerous. However, it's a job they signed up for, but I get that it can be dangerous. And the key word is try. And I don't think they try that. And what I try to tell them is try, because what you do to a youth, what a young person sees you do to him or his family, can forever change that person and change the way that they look at you, at a profession that, again, I was raised from a child. Who didn't play cops and robbers as a kid?
Right.
I don't know about you. I never wanted to be the robber. I got to be honest. Maybe on a couple occasions. But usually I wanted to be the police. In Miami, I would be the police, and I would pull over my neighbor, a little girl next door, with my BMX bike, and I would give her a ticket because my show was chips. And I grew up watching Chips and Emergency and all these police shows.
Sure.
So, and I'm sorry to get long-winded, John, but what
Go for it, man.
Thank you, bro. Back to the incident, what I recall, and this is where I get a little bit, hard to talk about, is I recall, I don't know if you remember in the 80s, high-tech boots. High-tech boots were popular boots, kind of harder on the bottom, a little softer canvas, military type, nylon on the top. And I had high-tech. I loved, in junior high, I thought I was the shit because I had my suede Adidas, like Run DMC, right?
That's right.
Adidas, one of my favorite songs, and my shell toes. And I had a pair of high-tech, and I thought I was the shit.
Exactly.
RPD in the 80s, most of them, and I don't know if this was common, like Ford Crown Victorias or the common car or Chevy Impala, whatever, throughout the country. I don't know if it was everywhere throughout the country, but in Rochester at least, they wore, predominantly for the most part, high-tech boots.
Okay.
And the memory that I have in my mind sitting here on a cold, cloudy day in Rochester talking to you is of seeing high-tech black boots coming through the paneling on our front door.
Okay.
And the sounds of wood splintering, wood just breaking. If you've ever, broken wood and you hear that, indistinguishable or whatever sound that you know what it is with your eyes closed, of wood just giving way.
Yep.
And this was a hard door. This was not foam-filled, whatever door like nowadays, a lot of doors, This was a solid wood door with thinner paneling, wood panels inside, and a big window on the front, big glass. At one point, the window gave way, shattered, and I just remember them both entering the house after literally kicking the door maybe as long as a minute. The door tried to hold its on, but it was no match for basically four boots coming through. And again, I'm 60 years old. I'm on the other side of the door, and all I remember is guns out and yelling, and everybody, stay where you are, don't move, don't fucking move, pointing guns. One cop, Mark Mariano to be specific, I'll never forget, threatened to shoot my dog, Sonomi. And Sonomi was a rescue dog. I had rescued her because the landlord around the corner didn't allow a tenant to have her. And I grew up loving animals just like my dad. My dad, I was always taking in strays in Miami. And, he rescued a stray in Cuba and brought him here, and the dog lived to be 18 years old and actually died in Rochester the same year that the cops broke in 86. So from 68 to 86, Peyo lived. That was his name, Peyo. So big animal lover, and they threatened to shoot my dog. I was hysterical. I was crying. I was scared. I didn't even know what the hell was going on, or everything was like surreal. And again, when we think of traumatic experiences in our life, we always think, well, we always describe it as it sounded like it lasted an hour, but this was all just a few minutes. And it's so like slow motion in my mind, literally, like, because I remember everything. At one point in the upstairs, they made their way upstairs. Mark Mariano jacked me up against the wall, basically told me to stop crying, to shut the fuck up. All the time they're pointing guns at us. They overturned my parents' dresser drawers, flipped the mattress, turned the nightstand, inside out drawers. To this day, they broke my baseball trophies, which is something that I'm always that I always remember, because I grew up playing a lot of sports with the local recreation centers here. And, and it's something that I just remember. Like, I don't know why, but out of everything, a couple things stick in my mind, and one of them is that my trophies literally got...
like, they didn't care about your accomplishments at that age.
No. The trophies got shattered, So that's something that I always remember. And I'm sorry, bro. It's just hard to talk about it, sometimes. But
sure.
So basically, they were just on a rampage, And I recall my brother had just had surgery just a couple weeks earlier for a hernia, and my brother, before they left the house, my brother told Randall Benjamin, who's still an officer here, told told him what you did is wrong. It's unconstitutional, and it was against the law. And my brother at the time was in his, he would have been 24, older than me. And basically, Randall Bencher, I'll never forget this, looked at him right in his face, inches away, got in his face, laughed at him, and said, "Who are you, Perry Mason?" And, a lot of you, maybe the younger viewers, I'm sure you have a wide range of followers, but Perry
They can Google it. Go on.
Right, Perry Mason, the old lawyer there in the show,
Yeah.
Orson Welles there. So
after they bust in the door, bust all your stuff, go through your house, ransack it without a warrant, your brother says what you're doing is unlawful, and they get in his face and laugh and say, "Ha ha ha, who you, Perry Mason?"
Absolutely. And it was that incident, John. It was that incident right there. And I've written about it on my blog. I've talked about it in my videos. I always make sure I go out of my way to mention Randall Benjamin, who's still on the force right now, who has been on the force over 30 years. He was pretty much a rookie at the time. I think he had been on the force 2 years. I believe he started in 84. I remember he was on the force for about 2 years at that time. So he's been on the force, you figure, like 34 years.
Wow.
And I never forget, it was that incident that not only changed my outlook forever,
right,
but perhaps more importantly, my dad's outlook and his whole, wait a minute, I left Cuba, less than 20 years earlier to escape this kind of, let's say it now. Now it can apply, right?
Yeah.
This police state kind of behavior.
Right.
I left my homeland. I left my parents, his family behind. One of my, I know I'm skipping around a little bit, but one of my earliest memories when we came here is that in the 80s, early 80s, 81, 80, 84, 85, right before the incident, and even after the incident, telegrams would come. And I don't know if I'm a little older than you, but telegrams were the way of communicating with people, especially from from your homeland or whatever. And the telegrams were very, and I don't mean to be funny about it, but it was almost like, long before the internet is what it is, long before communication, even though communication has always been hard with talking to your loved ones in Cuba. Not everybody has a phone. It's hard to coordinate. Somebody has to go to somebody's house and coordinate, But
so wait. When you say telegram, you mean someone shows up at your front door and delivers a message verbally?
No, well, not verbally, but like a Western Union actually letter, where basically the telegram was very short, like so-and-so died. That's it. So there's no way of breaking the news to you or no way of any kind of empathy, and it was just that. It was just cold.
So it was like a short. It was like a short tweet on a piece of paper delivered by a human being.
Exactly.
Just so our younger viewers know what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
It didn't happen instantaneously from your hand. Someone had to actually write the tweet down on a hard piece of paper, have another human being deliver it to your front door, and hand it to you.
Absolutely.
And that's how you tweeted back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a perfect way to describe it. I mean, you hit it perfect. I've never even thought about it, but I guess it was an early form of a tweet. Is the perfect way.
Or an instant message.
Yeah. And
not so instant message.
Right.
All right, go on. So
over the years, my dad's brothers died, a sister died, and it would be basically, So my point is that here's my dad having left Cuba because of this very same type of behavior and conduct on the part of the police, where they can just kick your door in. There's no repercussions. There's no resolutions. And they can pretty much do what they want when they want. And here he was, for him, I never asked him like straight up, but I know that it hurt him deeply.
Sure.
And he also felt betrayed because my dad loved this country. He loved President Kennedy, was one of his heroes, Ernest Hemingway. He loved this country, and that's why, as most Cubans that leave.
Did they find anything in the house?
No, actually, I skipped this part. What they found, and this is later where we learned that the neighbor, whose name was Earl, by the way, Earl Landers, basically what happened is in 1985, I think it was, my dad had bought me a Crossman pellet
gun.
Exactly. And me, I wouldn't, as some kids use it for hunting. I'm not against hunting, but I loved animals too much. I don't even, I'm not a hunter myself. I would use it instead of shooting whatever innocent animals or whatever, like a lot of youth or teens, I would use it. I would go in the garage and I would fill up. I don't even know if they make these still. I would fill up not 2 liters, 3-liter bottles of pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I just remember, like, they really wanted to kill you on sugar back then, because I remember 3-liter, like, Pepsi bottles. Real huge. I don't know if anyone remembers that. I would fill it with
look
water.
like torpedoes.
They look like torpedoes, yeah, like mini bombs or something.
Yeah,
and I would shoot them in my garage. But the thing with alcoholism, and I don't hate this man. I mean, rest in peace. Ironically, you won't believe this. You can't even write this or make this up. Earl is buried less than 200 feet from where my dad is buried, in the same cemetery on the same side.
Right.
So God bless him, and I don't hold anything against him. I know that he was a very sick man. Alcoholism is a very, very ugly disease.
Right.
But the ironic thing is that we learned quickly that he had a photographic memory, as many drunks or many alcoholics do, and he used it to hurt people, because I remember him months before he called the police commenting on, what do you got there? Just making conversation in the backyard as I was shooting the targets in my garage.
All right.
So that's what they found. They found a pellet gun.
Okay.
But it's not so much about what they found, it's the way that they went about it.
So what if they found a pellet gun? What does that mean?
Exactly.
What did they say? Did they arrest your father?
No, they took the gun, and then what happened, and this is kind of like my dad fell into a bad depression after this. What happened is we sued the city. My dad retained a lawyer who, unfortunately, I'm very passionate in my videos talking about when people hire a lawyer, not to forget that they literally, it's just that. You hired the lawyer. The lawyer is working for you, and you really need to be careful. There's a lot of sellout lawyers. There's a lot of bureaucracy, red tape, and many times the lawyers are literally in bed with the officials, with the city officials, with the police.
Right.
And it's something that people don't realize. Like, one of the biggest things I tell people is, when you hire a lawyer, you retain a lawyer for a civil case. That's the key word, civil. Do not give that lawyer 1 red cent. And people are like, what do you mean? He asked me for money. No, stay away from it, never. And I'll tell you why. The way civil cases are litigated is as follows. The lawyer gets paid when you get paid. It's not a criminal lawyer. You didn't catch a DWI or got caught.
So how do you get a civil lawyer to work for you without paying him?
Well, because the thing is, the only thing they should ask for is filing fees. If a case needs to be filed in court, a couple $100, that's fine. But what I mean is, here there was a case a few years ago, and I wrote about it on my blog, that a woman was basically like a poverty pimp. Basically, she was an Italian woman, a lawyer. She was disbarred after this. For years and years, she was able to get away with asking her clients from anywhere between $7,000 and $10,000 up front, and she would claim that she was working on cases. And I should have been clear on this. I'm sorry. These are police civil rights cases. Okay, so these are civil cases. And what she would do is basically what I tell people: if a lawyer asks you for a penny up front in a civil case, it's a bad sign, and it's just going to make them work less instead of more, because the way they look at it, whether your case is strong or not, oftentimes they're not going to tell you. The way they look at it is, we already got a cut. I already have some money in my pocket. So lawyers, at least the lawyers that I've experienced here, work on 33 and a third percent. That's of any settlement. So if you settle a case for $75,000, that's when they get paid. They're going to get paid $25,000 a third. If a case, a lot of people don't know this, if the case goes to court and there's a jury award, and the jury awards you $100,000, okay?
Uh-huh.
The lawyer will not get money from your case, from your amount. That's your award. Part of the incentive for a corporation, where people don't realize a city or a county is a corporation. They're a business.
Yeah.
The name of the lawyer for Rochester is not Rochester Attorney. It's City of Rochester, New York Corporation Council. A city and municipality is a business. So the way it works is that if there is a jury verdict, it's almost like you can call it an extra punishment for the city or for whoever you sue. that not only do they have to pay what the jury awards the plaintiff, but they also have to pay the lawyer's fees for the plaintiff. So I don't know if you kind of if I'm losing the ball.
Now hold on.
Right. So that's one of the.
Let me ask. How do you get the lawyer to work for you without giving them money up front?
Well, you know, because obviously you'll know if you have a good case if a lawyer takes your case in the first place. But I guess what I mean is that it's a bad sign, John. So
you're saying if they're not willing to work for you on the basis that they get paid when they win, then you should look for a different lawyer.
Absolutely.
All right.
And the case that I use for the perfect example of why people should do that is because oftentimes there's several things going on at once. A lawyer's job, whether they admit it or not, and obviously just like cops don't admit that there's ticket quotas, but a lawyer's job is to basically get you out of the way,
sure,
and go on to the next case.
Yeah.
And so many times
produce.
Push. Exactly. It's all about a numbers thing. At the end of the day, it's all numbers.
Okay.
Their job at the end of the day is to get you a settlement or get your case done, which is a good thing. Somebody will be like, well, David, what do you mean? That's good. Yes, it can be good, but you need to be weary. People need to be weary of the fact that just because a lawyer is representing you or took your case does not mean that he or she has and that's the key word, your best interest in mind.
All right.
In other words, make sure people forget. Like I've had people that, I don't want to call them. I don't want to bother them. They're going to get pissed off. They work for you. It's not that you need to feel that you have a good relationship with the person who is litigating your case. And yes, if they ask you for money up front, it's not a good sign because their money, and again, I'm talking about civil cases, not criminal cases. It's different day and night.
Sure.
Civil cases, they get paid when you get paid. And if anything, it's another incentive. Think about it. If you're a lawyer right now and you know that that's how you get paid, I don't know about you. I'm going to work my ass off trying to get a settlement or getting this case on the calendar.
Yeah, you got a lot more incentive.
Moving it to a settlement.
Listen, Dave.
But I know that I didn't want to go off on a tangent. That's
all right. I got a
different topic.
My wife's giving me it's time to go to breakfast signal, so I'm 10 more minutes. I do want to cover some stuff.
Absolutely.
So, say their names again, because that's what really needs to be put out there, is who they are. Mariano?
Mark, M-A-R-K, Mariano.
And you're saying he's retired here in Florida, right?
Oh, yeah, he's up in Florida, retired from the RPD as a homicide investigator.
Do you know what city he's in?
I don't. I
right.
believe, I want to say he's close to West Palm Beach area somewhere.
Okay, and the other guy's name was Rambo, like John Rambo from Rambo the movie?
Well, well, that was his street nickname. I don't know about you in Florida, but they all have a lot of cops have a street nickname.
What was his real name?
Randall, Randall. Last name Benjamin. Common spelling, Benjamin.
His first name is Rand Bell.
No, Randall, like Randall. Yep.
Ramble
is the nickname. Yep.
Ramball is his first name.
No, first name is Ran, N like Nancy,
yeah.
D like David.
Yeah. Randall.
Randall. Yep, Randall.
And his last name? Benjamin.
Yeah.
And he's still on the force in Rochester, New York.
Oh, yeah. He's a homicide investigator right now with the RPD. He's been investigated by the FBI recently.
And he's the one that got in your brother's face after your brother protested and gave a constitutional grounds on why he's protesting. And
absolutely. My brother let him know what you guys just did is illegal and unconstitutional. And he laughed in my brother's face and asked him if he was Perry Mason.
Okay. And so they took your pellet gun. Did they arrest anybody?
No arrest. The case dragged on for years.
Okay, hold on. Let me ask some questions here. No arrest. They took your pellet gun. So then your father decides to sue the city. Is that correct?
Decides to sue the city.
Mm-hmm.
After about 5 years, literally about 4 years, in 1990, my dad realizes that the lawyer, and this is why I'm so passionate about what I was talking about,
right.
the lawyers,
sure,
that the lawyer had shelved the case. Literally, the case was not advancing, and this is what people need to be wary about. Was not advancing. He had basically done next to nothing. After putting my dad off every couple months, my dad would call him, and he would basically just string him along, like we say in Spanish, just string him along.
Yeah.
It's working its way up. It's going. It's coming. I'll let you know, and all this bullshit.
Right.
In '91, my dad gave it to a different lawyer. Took it away from the first lawyer, and unfortunately, the case got to court in late '91, '92, and the judge. There was a trial by which time my dad was literally just out of it. He fell into such a bad depression that he could barely testify at the trial. The judge basically found that the officers, while yes, entering the house with no warrant, while violating rights, found in favor of the city.
On what grounds?
He found that there were exigent circumstances.
Oh, Jesus.
Yep, and
based on your okay, so that's based on your neighbor's lie, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay,
all based on a neighbor's lie because he didn't get money because my dad cut him off for his alcoholism.
Let me ask you this: so when they found out, did they even investigate to see if the guy was telling the truth? So I'm assuming he didn't get in trouble for a false police report.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And they didn't investigate.
And not only that,
and they didn't care about the Constitution. They were just annoyed that they had to come out there and someone's going to pay for it. And it ended up being you and your family.
Me and my family. They didn't even as much as fix the door. They left us literally with no door in the house that day.
Right. And it's your fault,
Exactly. Of course. Important to note that this is a neighbor which was getting arrested several times a month regularly.
Oh.
They knew this man. That was key right there.
Okay.
They knew this man. They knew
he was a scumbag liar.
They knew he was a scumbag, yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes. Yep.
So, okay, of course, the courts ruled. The lawyers in the courts didn't do the right thing. That's shocking. Your dad went into depression, yep. And you said, unfortunately, in '93, he took his own life. Is that right?
In '93, July 9, '93, we had an appointment to take my dad to see someone on the 12th. And this is anyone listening with, hopefully you can put this part. I'm assuming you'll have to edit some stuff maybe, but hopefully this part here, I want to reach out to everyone. I suffer from depression myself. I suffer from PTSD. Mental illness is very real thing. Thank God it's less taboo than it used to be, but it used to be very much keep it in the closet. Let's not talk about it. It needs to be talked about more. Suicide is very real.
It is.
Suicide devastates families. Okay? We had an appointment to get my dad some help on the 12th of July, which was a Monday. And Friday, the 9th, my dad was in his room where he had been for, at least a week, not coming out much, not eating too much, which was why we were taking him in on the 12th. He came down and he... this is something that I'm very honest about, but it's something that I live with every day. He told me he needed to talk to me. I was watching Unsolved Mysteries downstairs. My mom was cooking in the kitchen. And I said, yeah, Papi, I'll be right up. And I didn't really think much of it. I mean, it's one of those things that you literally, he didn't look, we knew he was down. We knew, we knew he wasn't feeling good. And it's one of those things that kind of caught everyone by surprise. You can say what he did next. I said, I'll be right up. And literally less than 5 minutes, we heard a big bang. And my dad committed suicide in his room.
Sorry,
July
brother.
9th. Thank you, my man. I appreciate that. Yep.
Sorry,
and
brother.
Yep, it's hard, bro. I miss my dad every day. But the reason I reached out to you, and the reason that I want you to know to please try. I know you got a life outside of this, and for everyone watching, even people that maybe will be motivated now, whether your channel, whether my work, to start doing the accountability thing is because what hurts me so much is that the city of Rochester is one of the most crooked, most corrupt cities and police departments, the Rochester Police Department. And my dad's been gone almost 25 years. You know, I'm 47 years old. I'm a father of 3. And did they pull the trigger? Of course not. They didn't. But whether the actions of these police officers, who completely changed my life forever when they broke in, and furthermore, the retaliation of my dad suing the city. And again, this was in 1980. It's important for your viewers and listeners to remember that it was pre-internet like it is now. It was pre-Facebook.
Pre-cell phone.
No smartphone.
No phones. No cell phones, period. No cordless phones.
No cell phones, period. Exactly.
No cordless phones. No microwaves.
Big G.I. Joe looking cell phone.
No microwaves.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the retaliation and what this city put my dad through for 7 years after they broke in our house unconstitutionally, illegally, with no warrant.
Right.
Which me or you would basically be charged for, you know.
Sure.
Criminally charged for what they did. So a lot of people say, you know, get over it. I've had trolls. You think you got trolls, my brother. You have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
My children have been threatened. An ex-cop turned police informant for the RPD threatened to kidnap, murder, and decapitate my daughter, who was 5 at the time. And
I believe it.
Her head on the roof of my car. And the video's out there. There's a video of it. And guess what the police told my daughter's mother and me?
What?
That basically they rubbed it in my face that what the guy did, as disturbing as it is, falls under free speech, the same speech that I go out of my way to protect. We are talking about the Rochester, New York Police Department, who refused to charge an ex-con with a criminal history a mile long, who threatened to kill my little girl and place her head on the roof of my car.
That's not free speech.
Because he didn't make the threat directly to me or to my daughter.
So who did he make the threat to?
He made it to a troll who has been obsessed with me and my family, a disgruntled gas station employee who tried to be an RPD officer, couldn't pass the civil service exam.
Oh, so a stalker, basically?
His next best thing is he became a cheerleader of the RPD, with all his friends being RPD sergeants and RPD cops, an individual who I had to file a report for stalking my children outside of their elementary school. You have no idea how deep it is.
What's his name?
And look, not to get into the politics thing about Trump and this and that, I'll stop short of that, but I'll tell you this. Especially in the time that we're living now, and especially with these 2 latest incidents that happened, in Florida and in Pittsburgh, we are living in one of the worst, one of the most divisive, hate-filled times that this country has ever seen. And was chosen to not only stand up for my rights, but also remind people of what they did to an innocent, a good man, and a good father, my dad.
Mm-hmm.
As a result, the very same system that is supposed to be there to protect me and you, John, to protect your wife right now and you when you guys go to breakfast, the same system that's supposed to uphold the law and protect us has refused and has turned a blind eye to me becoming a target of these very, very disturbed individuals and trolls like you have. And I follow your channel. I know the guy that is the cop cheerleader that won't leave you alone, basically.
Yeah.
But you have no idea how bad it's been with me, where your children are threatened, and you being a law-abiding citizen, but an outspoken citizen who takes every advantage of your rights as an American, and you can't get the protection from the very same people whose job it is to protect you and your family.
Right.
It is like a Twilight Zone episode.
Well, the thing is, there is technically, and the Supreme Court ruled, they don't have to protect you. They have zero obligation to protect anyone. And they take advantage of it.
That is the kicker. That is the kicker right now.
All right, my man. We got to wrap this up, so I'm going to ask you some more poignant questions, and we can talk again. I'm not going anywhere. You're definitely not going anywhere, right?
No, I'm here, bro. I'm here to stay. I've been doing this too long to quit.
All right. You're going to die of natural causes. So they screwed over your father. Your father tried to fight. I fought my stupid address, my address citation and my bicycle citations. It took me close to a year. It wore me out, dude. And I could keep going because I keep uncovering stuff, but it literally wears you out. And I could see, I could totally see where that would destroy a man's confidence and make him depressed. Because I was depressed there for a week or two. I'm like, man, I'm fighting. And up until my channel got all this exposure, it seemed like it was all for nothing. So, like you said, just keep fighting. Even if it seems like nothing's happening, it's better to walk forward an inch than to walk backwards a foot. So,
absolutely.
Your dad fought. He fell in depression. He took his own life. Everything you said has a giant impact on you. And I've watched a couple of your videos, and you have no problem talking to cops like they're just other people and not sovereign citizens and not special. They're just human beings, supposedly. And you talk to them that way, and I like the way you talk to them, and I like the way you make them ID themselves, and I like your approach and your I don't give an F attitude when you approach cops, because you shouldn't give an F. They work for you, and that tide and that they're heroes and they protect and that blah 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 propaganda, that's gonna turn. And thank goodness for the technology and the internet. And the internet is a wrecking ball to government corruption. I mean, even one of the senators said it would have been better if the internet was never invented. I think his name was Rockefeller, Nelson Rockefeller, maybe. Anyway,
absolutely.
You became an activist yourself. You have a blog. Let's start plugging your stuff, because you deserve. You only have like 5-something thousand subscribers or something. I believe you should have 500,000.
Yeah, I think my channel's being suppressed, but that's another topic for another day.
Yeah, sure.
YouTube is a funny.
Okay, so everyone who's watching this and listening, and if you've been listening this whole time, bless you. So, go to his blog. How do they find your blog?
Oh, my blog is the Davy V blog. So it's just Davy V blog, and then my YouTube channel is Davy V TV.
Now, someone just types DAVYV into Google, and they'll find your blog. Is that right?
Absolutely. DAVY space and then V, or the last name, which is VARA. It's just that the Davy V took off years ago, kind of like a little pseudonym,
sure.
A little pen name,
So DAVY space V for his blog, and then his YouTube channel is DAVY TV, right?
Yeah, VTV. DAVY VTV. Davy V TV.
Davy V TV. Please go to his channel and subscribe. He deserves it. He like I said, you do it better than I do. I don't have that many. All my confrontations, while everyone thinks I go out of my way to bait cops and blah, 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 the overwhelming majority, 99.9% of my encounters with cops were involuntary. They came up to me. That's the part that people that bothers me, is that I don't approach them. I don't go to them. They're coming to me for whatever reason.
Absolutely.
All right, sir. It was a pleasure meeting you. Thanks for contacting me. What else? You're the man.
I just want everyone.
I'm going to cover some of your videos. So they get a good idea of what you do and what Rochester PD is all about, okay? It might take a little time because I got like 4 or 5 videos behind.
So I know. People just need to be involved, People need to be involved, and people need to stand up for the right.
Record. I think the kryptonite to police and government is a camera.
Yep.
You see anything going down, you get a whiff of anything going down, you have an inkling that something might go down, start recording. You don't even have to point it at the thing. Just make sure there's something recording. That way you have an objective record, or a record at all. That way mother effers can't lie.
Absolutely. John, can I leave you with one of my dad's original sayings that he would say in the 1980s?
Yes.
He would say, rights, I have this on a t-shirt. He would say, rights are not asked for, rights are not given. Rights are fought for each day.
That's correct.
And that was an original saying that he had that was totally his, and it's timeless. And here I am, 25 years after his death, but at least 30 years that he started, that he first said that in the mid '80s, mid to late '80s, he came up with that, and it's so timeless that it's just one of the things I always like to remember about my dad is that saying he had: rights are not asked for, rights are not given, rights are fought for each day.
That's beautiful, sir.
Thank you, John.
Hey, man, pleasure, and we'll do it again, okay?
Same here, John. Thank you, my man.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Take care, bro. Thank you.
Bye-bye.